Hey boys and girls, so a few years ago when they had the Olympics going on, one of my favorite things to watch was the gymnastics part. I would watch Simone Biles and Gabby Douglas, um, doing a really great job in the Olympics. And I remember when I was watching it, the gymnasts had to prepare their routines for the Olympics. They had to know more they would have to know more points are earned for things like pointing their toes or sticking a landing that they made. Gymnasts know the way judges will score them, so they're able to practice with that in mind. So we know that the tests are going to be scored. The test writers are scoring the NJSLA, so we can practice with that in mind. You may also remember that throughout the year when we've done assessments or writing prompts, we've had a checklist that we've used across the year. And we're going to look at a tool like a checklist that's going to help us when we're writing answers to our responses. So today I want to teach you that test takers often find how their answers will be scored and use that information to self-assess and improve their responses. So in digging for dinos, we read, this was one of the questions that we answered earlier in the week, and it says, in digging for dinos, what do paragraphs 8 and 9 show about Benny? Use details from the story to support your answer. And so this is a sample response. So let's look at this sample response. So it says paragraphs 8 and 9 showed that Benny was hardworking. One detail that showed this was Benny thought holding the GPS device might be fun, but he wasn't giving up. Another detail was that he worked for a very long time. So if I was a test maker, or a test grader, if I know how I'm going to get graded, then I can know if I need to improve my response in any way. So here is a rubric. And I often use rubrics for your writing, or I'll use rubrics for any project that you might do. So this is how I'm going to score you, and you're going to receive certain points for the things that you do, just like gymnasts do when they're doing a routine. So it's 1 point if you wrote a response and answered the question. You get a half a point if you included one specific detail from the text to support your answer. And you get another half point if you used a second specific detail to support your answer. Because notice it asks you the question, what do paragraphs 8 and 9 show about Benny? And then it asks you to use two details from the story. So now I need to think, if I were a test grader or test scorer, what would I score this? Well, let's see. Did they write a response to the question about what do we know about Benny from those paragraphs? Paragraph 8 and 9 showed that Benny was hardworking. Yes, they did. So this person will get 1 point. Okay. Now, did they include a specific detail from the text to support their answer? One detail that showed this was Benny thought holding the GPS device might be fun, but he wasn't giving up. That shows that he's hardworking too, because it says he wasn't giving up. So that's a half a point. I included a second specific detail from the text. And now I need to see if this response has a second detail that supports the answer. Another detail was that he worked for a very long time. That's another detail that supports the answer from the text. So there's another half a point. So the total number of points, 1 1/2, 1/2 plus 1/2 is a whole. So we have 2 points. So this person received 2 points out of a possible 2 points. So this would be like 100%. So what I want you to do is, just like I looked at a example of a response and I assessed it or graded it, you're going to do the same thing and you're going to justify your answer. So for example, this one I might say, this response would receive 2 points out of 2 points. And I need to say why. The reader answered the question and gave 2 details from the text. And this justifies why I gave this person 2 points. So, if I go back to your assignment here for 32520, it says, today we learned that self-assessing your work can be helpful. Test takers often find out how their answers will be scored. Ooh, it should say scored, not scared. Scored. And use that information to self-assess and improve their responses. For classwork, I would like for you to look at the following question and 2 different responses, and just like I did in the lesson, assess how many points would each response receive and why. Use the rubric to help you. So you're not able to write on this rubric, but you're going to use it to help you write a response on what points you would give them and why. So just like I did on this document here. So if I go back here, the first page will look like this. Make sure you scroll to the bottom where it says scroll for questions. So it says question. In digging for dinos, why is Benny disappointed with the dinosaur dig? Use 2 details from the story to support your answer. So the first response someone wrote was, Benny was disappointed in the dinosaur dig because it was boring. According to the text, the real dig wasn't at all what he had expected. Another example was when he got tired from the sun. So what score would you give this response and why? And here's the second response to the same question. Benny was disappointed in the dinosaur dig. What score would you give this response and why? Make sure once you're done you share it with me at my email. And that's your writing assignment for today. This will help us because later on we're going to look at the responses that you send to open-ended questions and we're going to score them and see what would you score your own response. And that will help us to see if maybe you need to add something or maybe would you receive full credit.